At some point, the official Take Care Man towel fell down. Hello everyone, welcome to the Take Care Man channel. My name is Todd. In this video, we're going to start a series of 3 shaves. I'm going to get back to holy cow, don't worry. But 3 shaves using Tennessee Artisans. So 3 shave soaps produced by artisans in Tennessee, and it's 3 different artisans. We're going to start with Pete Hendrix out of Nashville. Pete Hendrix's Hendrix Classics Company. We're going to use the unscented soap, but he has a really unique system in that you can buy the fragrance oils from him and then scent your own soap. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. We're also going to use the Pacific Shaving Company synthetic brush. It's a 24 millimeter, has a 52 millimeter loft, has a cork handle. So as a couple of other reviewers have noted, it will actually float in your sink. I'm really interested in it to see how it does in terms of grip. But I like that size of a knot. Just to show you sort of a comparison really quickly. Here's the PAA Pellegrino. Is it Pellegrino or Pellegrino? I forget. Anyway, you can sort of see the size comparison there. There's a Razor Rock 400 for those of you familiar with that brush. Like I said, this is a 24 millimeter knot, which is kind of my wheelhouse. I really like that type of size, or that size of a knot. They call this a synthetic badger, which I guess means that they tried to pattern the hair after a real badger hair brush. But nonetheless, it's synthetic and really, has nothing to do with badgers. It has their logo there on the end cap there, and it is certainly much more lightweight. It's definitely not balanced in that it's brush or not heavy, right? But that doesn't bother me. It's not an issue for me at all. So we'll see how this brush does. Looking forward to using that. And I should note that I actually reached out to the folks at Pacific Shaving Company and told them I'd like to try that brush and wonder if they'd send it along to the channel for me to try out. And I also was interested in their Nick stick. I don't know if you've seen this from them before, but it does contain aluminum sulfate, which is what a styptic pencil is. So we're going to try this out. Now, in order to try it out, we have to sort of tempt fate a little bit. So I thought, it's a Nick stick. I don't want to intentionally cut myself. But so for the love of science and for the viewers, I'm going to use the Feather SS Kamisori, and I have put a brand new Feather Super Professional blade, which is the sharpest blade that you can get, if I'm not mistaken, in the Artist Club style blade. So we're going to try that out. So it's, of any of the razors that I have, this one's probably most likely to produce a nick. Okay, so this is what the Hendrix Classics Company soap looks like. It's unscented, but you can see it's kind of got a tan brownish tint to it, and it is indeed unscented. I might detect a slight hint of like an animalic note. However, there's nothing in here that's an animal product other than goat's milk. So this is not technically a vegan soap because there's no goat's milk, but there's no tallow. So I'm actually thinking that's not so much animalic as it just may be those base ingredients from perhaps the goat milk's lending just a slight smell, but it could be some of the other natural butters and things that are in there. But if you were using it, I would say it's unscented. Like it's 99.9% unscented. Very, very slight is what I would say. So you're probably used to seeing Hendrix Classics Company's logo that looks a little bit like that. They have another soap label that just has their logo on it. And he has a couple of scented soaps there on the site, currently Badass and Emperor's Oud. And he was nice enough to send along a nice note with the soap and the fragrances, and again there's their logo, or his logo, and put a nice note on the back. And so in doing the scent your own design from Hendrix Classics Company, you can order 3 different sizes of fragrance oils. You can order a 1 milliliter, a 5 milliliter, or a 1 ounce. Now the 1 milliliter is just $2, and it's kind of this little small size here, a little bitty teeny tiny, and you can see he's got the label there for the scent. You can get about 10 to 11 shaves out of that, if I calculate correctly, using what he said about the 5 milliliters, which are $6. So you can see one of those there, and it actually comes with a dropper. So there's a dropper down in here so that you can do drops of the scent oil. Whereas with the 1 milliliter, he includes a syringe so that you can get down in there, and I'll show you in just a minute the opening on the other to do it that way. So the 1 ounces, which I don't have one of, is $18, and you can get about 275 shaves out of that, according to Pete. And back with the 5 milliliter, he estimates about 55, which is how I got the 10 to 11 for the 1 milliliter. So the scent I'm going to use in this shave is one called Sophisticated Gentleman. I'll put a link to all the scents that they have there at Hendrix Classics Company, as well as this soap and their other soaps. And I chose this one. I ordered 8 different scents. When I contacted Pete about the label, I was wanting a label he had which was for Studio B in Nashville, being in Tennessee and just a couple hours away from Nashville. Kind of wanted that one, but he was having a hard time getting that label to print, so he sent this one along. He said, hey, I'll send this to you if you want to pay shipping. I'll send you the soap to try out on the channel and a couple of scents. So he sent along a couple of the 5 milliliter scents, and I said, hey, can I pay you for 6 of the other scents in the 1 milliliter? And so he said sure, and so I paid for these 6 other little samples. So I'll talk about those other scents in a future video, but this is the one I wanted to pick out. So it has notes of, or it's the one I picked out after I smelled them. It has notes of cedar, musk, amber, and patchouli, and I really like the way it smells. Yes, you get the powder. It's like a powdery, indeed sophisticated. There's a slight sweetness to it. I would say it's amber forward, amber and cedar forward, and the musk and the patchouli are kind of in the background. Something that sort of would be a concern of mine, and I know it's a concern of Pete's, is people don't need to use too much fragrance oil. It can actually burn your face. You can have a reaction to it. So you're wanting to try to dilute the fragrance oil down based on the amount of soap you're using or product. This would be true of essential oils and that kind of thing. He recommends starting out with 1 drop. So if you were using the 5 milliliter bottle that comes with a dropper, you could just drop it in there. But with the syringe, I had to look up, like in the cosmetic industry, health and beauty, how much is a drop, right? And it said it is, I think, 0.05 milliliters. So it would be a half of 0.1 milliliter. And so in the middle of the 1 milliliter syringe that he sends along, it's the markings here, the graduations, I guess you call them, here is a 0.1 milliliters. There's 10 of those to make up a milliliter. And so we're going to use, I'm going to start out with like 0.5 of them, I'm sorry, 0.05 of a milliliter, and see how much that does in terms of scent. So I've got the soap pressed out here in the Pereira shaving bowl. You can see how much soap I use there. Now, I'm reluctant to put the scent directly on the soap. I want to get a little water in the bowl first. Pete recommended for lathering out of the bowl, put the fragrance oil in the bowl. He mentioned if you did face lathering, you could put the soap on your brush and then add, or even lather up or load the brush and then add the fragrance oil to your brush. Now, personally, I would be reluctant to do that because fragrance oils have much more staying power than essential oils, or they tend to. And I would be a little concerned that putting a fragrance oil, even if there was already soap on here, directly on the brush, I would be a little concerned that it would stick around too much on the brush, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to get a little water on this soap first before I put the fragrance in, so that it's further diluted in terms of its contact with the brush for the first time, if that's making sense to you or not. But I'm going to wet the brush here and go in here and start getting a lather going. I left the brush pretty wet, just shook it off just a little bit. So I'm going to get this lathered up, and I'll come back and talk to you about adding the fragrance. I've got the lather started here. I got quite a bit of water in there. It's kind of frothy right now, but as I get more product off the bottom, I think it's going to lather up nicely. So these little bottles, which I think are also called dram bottles, I think when I've seen those on Amazon, if you can see, it's got a little slight, you can see that, it's got a little slight opening there. And so we're just going to take the syringe. I'm going to have to put the glasses back on if I can see where I put them. Where did I put my glasses? Who knows? Oh, here they are. Typical. On brand for me. All right, so we're going to put the syringe down in here, and I'm just going to draw up point. See, that may, sometimes you have to draw and then draw back out and push it back out to get. Yeah, I'm going to have a little bit of an air bubble there. So I've got about 0.05 milliliters of fragrance. I'm going to put this in the bowl. See if I can show you here without everything dropping. I probably can't. But I'm going to put it away from the brush fibers. I don't want to put it directly on the brush. I'm going to kind of mix it in with the soap. And I'm actually going to, I have the little spatula that I use to scoop out the soap. And I'm going to actually stir it a little bit in the soap with the fragrance so that I'm not using the brush to stir the fragrance. Again, I'm probably being too meticulous about this. I'm sure it's probably fine to use the brush initially, but I just want to kind of dilute that fragrance oil in the soap before I got this brush on it. So I'm just going to continue lathering here now with that a little bit of lather or a little bit of scent added to it. We'll see how well scented it is when we come back with it lathered up. Okay, smelling it out of the bowl, I decided I do want to pull up another little 0.05 milliliters of fragrance to put in there. So again, going to put that to the side in the actual lather and not on the brush. And again, get my little spatula thingy and stir a little bit just to kind of get that worked in and continue lathering a little bit. Okay, that should be sufficient. Kind of covering up our brush we're trying out here, but let me set it here on the edge of the Pereira shaving bowl, and I'm going to wet the face. We'll come back and get started on this shave. See how this scent is with that 0.1 milliliter of scent. That's about right for me. Still kind of medium strong and not super strong, which is fine. So as you know, I like to face lather. So bowl lather here. Not as common, although I've been using a lot of the Holy Cow samples I have, so I've been doing it more often lately. I really like this Cork brush handle. It's easy to grip. As usual, I got way too much soap down on the handle. I need to be a lot more careful when I bowl lather. But what's interesting, when you get this handle wet, it doesn't affect how grippy it is, in my opinion. I am going to still drive it off just a little bit, but that cork soaks up the water pretty quickly. So let's just apply a little more lather to the face here. Now, this would be what I think that Pete would call one drop, even though I did 2 drops, so I did half the size drops. I would probably be willing to try one more of the half drops to take the scent up even a little more for me, and that's something you just have to experiment with. But to me, it's a great idea. I mean, people have been doing that, with unscented soaps, adding, essential oils themselves, I'm sure. And this is the first time I've known of a company saying, okay, here's the fragrance oils you can produce, buy from us, and you can sort of make your own scent. And you're saving tons of money in terms of, getting different scented soaps, because you kind of have several in one. And I meant to mention, Pete includes a nice set of instructions for using the syringe, and also more information about the fragrances. I'll take pictures of both of these and put a link to them in the description. And he also has a great video on how to use this system, which I will also link in the description. I may talk to you a little bit during this first pass, but I'm probably going to fast forward because I don't really need to talk when I'm using this Feather SS. I'm not that good yet. So I'm going to probably fast forward through these passes, talk about my impressions between the passes, and then come back and sum up. So let's get in here with this first pass. Get a little more lather over here on the sideburn. It's always hard when using these to get them on camera. By the way, if someone knows a good guide to kamisoris, and I don't mean kamisori shavettes, I mean actual, straight razor kamisoris, non-folding kamisori, or non-folding straight razors. Let me know, because I'm really interested in those, but I don't know much about purchasing them or the good, I guess, companies that make them. I know a lot of them come out of Japan, but I'm interested in getting into some of those. I don't really like folding style razors. That's one of my sort of personal preferences. I much prefer this kamisori style. The big danger, this would be true for straight razors, but also with these shavettes, is not to come in, too much. It depends on how people describe it, as steep or shallow. I would say coming into shallow as opposed to this being steep. So it's best to, sorry I keep hitting the mic, but I'm trying to get my stretch hand over. It's best to lay the blade flat against the face and then slightly rotate it out. Okay, good first pass. As predicted, I did get a nick here. I'm not going to try to do anything to close it now. It may close itself up by the end. We'll see. We won't use the nick stick unless we need to, and I'm not going to try to intentionally cut myself. So we may have to review the nick stick in a future video, but we'll just see. This is just first pass, getting a little too cocky here. With these kamisori shavettes, you definitely have to stay focused. You can't let yourself sort of get lax, or maybe, sometimes with a D, you're able to, if you've been doing it long enough, you're able to just, a double-edged safety razor is what I mean by DE. You're able to not focus and sort of go on autopilot. With these, particularly when you're a novice like myself, you have to focus. Great slickness with this Hendrix Classics Company. Getting good glide, protection. I definitely smell the scent. I'm perfectly fine with the level of scent on this. So would say that you want to go with the least amount of fragrance that is enough for you. In other words, you want to err on having less fragrance rather than more. And then just gradually dial it in to what you want. Now I get a much more aggressive and close shave with these kamisori shavettes. I do tend to miss some places that I'm not as comfortable with reaching with the kamisori, or with just any non-DE razor. But I tend to do a little more scraping, and not in a good way. And so I do feel my face tingling a little bit now. I didn't get that on the first pass with this soap or fragrance. And I think it's actually just because my face is a little raw from scraping on that first pass. So it's not anything unbearable. I don't think it's any kind of burn. I think it's just me being a novice shaver with this particular razor. So you see I got a little more, few nicks on that pass there, one here. So, you know, with my skill level or lack thereof, this was kind of predictable for this. All right, so let's see what we need to do. We got the usual pickups. I tend to have them, you know, miss the areas on the chin and around the mouth on these open blade shaves. And by open blade, I mean like a straight razor or a shavette. Yep, definitely giving the face a little scrape today, but I can tell you that the Hendrix soap, and by the way, this Sophisticated Gentleman scent is great. I really like it. And we have plenty of lather, by the way, left here in the bowl. Really happy with the performance on this soap. So I'll just kind of fast forward through these pickups as well. All right, let's rinse off. We'll get back in here to the post shave. When I did the rinse for the post shave, I actually put the mic, like took the mic off and like hung it down here on my bathroom cabinet. So I did the whole post shave thing without the mic up here, which probably would have been hard to hear. What I did do is I took some Thayer's unscented witch hazel and squirted that into a cup here and added just enough fragrance oil so I could smell it, use that, use the Hendrix Sophisticated Gentleman scent in the witch hazel, then put a very, very tiny amount of the fragrance in some Noxzema balm in my hand, applied that. Hate we didn't get to use the Nick stick, but I'm also proud we didn't. Didn't mention the price on the Pacific Shaving Company Cork brush. It's $39.99, so basically 40 bucks. This is a perfect travel brush, primarily because of the weight, but also, you know, specific use case, if you're camping down by some water or something and you drop this, it's going to float because of the cork, which is a nice feature. Yeah, I highly recommend this, and I really like it. I like that knot size of 24 millimeters, 52 millimeters of loft. Really like this. This is going to become a favorite brush in the den, I can tell, because I like the grip, and you can actually, you know, grab it back here, and because of the cork, it just doesn't turn easy in your hand. So I really like this brush, really happy with it. That was our first of 3 Tennessee soap artisans. So got 2 more of those shaves coming up. I'm looking forward to those. So I appreciate you watching, and thank you for being patient with my use of the shavette. So as always, until next time, take care, man.